Da, 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 da. Hello, everyone. I am John Johnson in an extremely intense month, but I'm still keeping up with my studies as well as doing this. I'm just one movie behind where I wanted to be, which I'll probably be watching tonight. I'm still going to watch it today, but I was hoping to watch it before this. For those who need to know what's going on, in about a year or so, I'm be making a film called House of Horrors, which is a monster mashup with Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, Hyde, all put together in one movie. But I wanted to really research each one and make sure that I'm kind of crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So I really want to make sure that each movie or each monster that we deal with is very fleshed out. I started with Frankenstein's monster, followed by the creature from the Black Lagoon, which we're not doing the creature. It's more of a swamp monster because the creature is the only copywritten monster but he's famous, so we went with that. So we did a research on him, and now we're doing Hyde. We just kind of we just started with Hyde. So there's a lot going on. You can call in the show. You could comment on Facebook and possibly YouTube if we get to YouTube. Questions and comments, and we'll read them aloud during the show. But you can also Skype call. We were prepared for Skype. We've got a thing all set here, which is that we're going into like an alternate universe now. Look at that.
Sorry, I forgot to mute.
That's Godzilla is going to be on the show, and he's very pissed. But no, so you could Skype call in, and you can ask your question live on the show. I believe you can see that there is a Skype number right here, which is my number. So it's all set to call. If you can't see that, let us know, because this is the first time I've tried doing title work on the show. And let's see. We've got Alyssa Lauer and Nigel. A lot of pussy.
Nigel.
This is our buddy. He will be reading your questions, and she will be telling us what they are and asking them out loud.
I'll be pointing them in the right direction.
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
But yes, so we're ready to start in all this, and I'm actually going to pull up on my phone the Facebook list of all the movies that I've been watching thus far, so I can kind of talk about each one and my thoughts on it, because there's quite a bit, actually, and I'm almost there. Facebook is a whole thing. I just need to get to my notes, which I'm not seeing I can do. Uh-oh.
Would you like me to read you a question in the meantime?
Yes, read me a question.
Okay.
In the meantime.
We have some old business that I neglected to see last show.
Right.
So Stephen Haar has a few questions here. What is your favorite film adaptation? As in Hyde film adaptation.
As in Hyde. Well, it's tough. There's quite a few that I'm seeing now for the first time that I'm really, really liking. I guess the first one that comes to mind is the 1931 Paramount movie, because it was the makeup that I remember the most, the kind of Neanderthal looking makeup. And that was something that I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to find my notes on here, and for some reason, somebody help me. The app is not doing. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to skip the app, and I'm going to go straight to Google and Facebook in without using the app. So let's see. Yeah, I would say it's that, because of the Neanderthal look of the creature was something I kind of grew up with, so it has a little bit of that. The BBC show, which was kind of a modern take on it, which is not in my studies because I've seen it so recently, that was also pretty well done. But I have a feeling by the end of this, I'm going to have a new favorite, because they are getting really, really interesting. Right.
Also, wait, there's another part to that.
Oh, another part.
Book or film?
Well, with Hyde, it's a little bit more, the book is interesting and the book is great, but for Hyde, to me, it's all about performance. and so the performance might be stronger to me in a movie than the actual the book is, just because of the duality of the actor getting to play both roles. In fact, next episode that we're doing here, which I believe is on Monday, Eric Hart, who played the role on Broadway of Jekyll and Hyde, and also was a part of the creation process. The writers actually kind of worked on it with him. We'll be on the show and talk about his take on the play version, which is on my list to watch, as well as talking about his thing that he did. And I'm on here and still not to where I want to be, but I'm getting closer. I just have to go to my page, wherever my page is. I have never. Oh, I should. Oh wait, I think I figured it out.
Woo!
And I'll be able to start going through. Well, let's do another question while this is loading.
Okay, Jeff Hafner. Season 2 of Penny Dreadful should have some Hyde, or just watch it for Ava Green.
Definitely. I have definitely watched.
I guess Eva Green.
Is it?
Is it Eva or Ava? I think it's Eva. Yeah.
I'm actually not sure. Is it Eva Green?
Yeah, it has an E, so it's.
All right. So I love the show. It's a great monster mashup in a different way, because they are looking a little bit more at the theatrical take on it versus and also a lot of the book is involved in the process, which is a little different than a lot of the comic books that do the monster mashups, which they kind of reinvent the monsters completely. This one, the changes that they usually make to the monsters adapts them to the story, but not changing them completely. They are kind of basing them, with the exception of Dracula, which they haven't really said it's Dracula, but it's kind of Dracula. We'll see. But they haven't adapted it as much, which is cool. It's a lot of fun, especially, dealing in what I'm dealing with over the last year and a half when I decided to do this monster movie. It's cool to actually see that, and I'm really looking forward to what they do next. All right, so movie-wise, I don't have my notes on here. I might be able to. I have to, because I couldn't get it on my phone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Facebook, and I'm finding what I need to find. Everything's working out. So please scroll down. Loading. To scroll down. House of Horrors research. I'm clicking. And there's the list. Frankenstein, Gilman, and Hyde. Fantastic. All right, first movie, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1931. This was the one I talked about with Steven, which was the Neanderthal makeup. And they made him such an evil bastard. Which is actually like slightly disappointing for me, because for some reason I got it in my head from later films that Hyde was terrible. He was a terrible person, but it was all reactionary. So somebody poked him and he just overreacted way too much and would kill people or do whatever. But they always kind of forced it, where the actual story is he's like the Marquis de Sade. He's just loves pain and loves inflicting pain, and that gives him joy. So he, more than just killing people because of just a high emotional ride, he actually messes up people just for the fun of it. And so I'm wavering on that. And actually, like, the big questions that I had about it when I started it was because they never really answer the question, whether in the novel or in the movies, is how much does Hyde know of Jekyll and how much does Jekyll know of Hyde when they're in each other's heads. And the best I got from the book was Jekyll knows everything Hyde's doing, because he sends money to the women and people that get tortured and beaten by Hyde. And well, mainly the prostitute gal he sends money to. So that makes Jekyll really awful, because not only does he know what Hyde's doing, he still allows him to do it. Way before it gets to the point that the juice isn't working anymore and Hyde's just becoming Hyde anyway. He still chooses to be Hyde, even though, which makes Jekyll almost worse than Hyde. Which gets complicated because there's certain parts that they don't know. Like when Hyde or Jekyll unlocks the door so Hyde can't get into it and destroys the key, Hyde for some reason doesn't recall this. But he knows everything the prostitute girl says to Jekyll, word for word, which is why he kills her, because she went to him. So it gets really confusing over that, and I think like I have to kind of answer that riddle myself because I don't think it's really answered. Each movie kind of adapts it a little differently, but the 1931 was of course nostalgic. It was great. I believe it was Percy March as Jekyll and Hyde. And they really made him very athletic too. He could run, jump, very, very much ape-oriented, which I think later films would take from. Next question.
Okay, Stephen Har wants to know, will you cast Jonathan Hyde as Mr. Hyde?
Jonathan Hyde. I'm not sure I get that reference. We are not doing Hyde. Oh, maybe that's an actor.
It must be.
Okay. We're not doing Hyde per se. We're doing because it takes place modern day, so it won't be. They're not immortal characters, which is why I'm not doing the Phantom of the Opera either, just because he's not immortal, essentially. But they are going to be doing a new experiment on a new person and creating a new Hyde, and so that is kind of why I'm only focused on Hyde versus Jekyll.
Okay, Stephen Har, will there be an origin story of Mr. Hyde, or is he going to be introduced as is in your movie?
Well, technically, the movie itself will be an origin story for that character because he will be created during the movie. So I'm going to look at the list for the next movie, which is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, 1941. Which do you have the screen up by chance, or do you see
of what?
Of me?
I will in a second.
See if that if the title's up.
Okay.
And then close it because it'll probably be loud.
Oh no, I have it up. And
is there a title?
There. Let me close.
In the bottom left.
Thing. There's not.
Oh, what the hell?
Put the monocle on.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong. There's supposed to be a title, and I see the title. I'm looking at the title. Why don't I don't know.
She's not there.
I gotta watch a tutorial to figure this out. Johnny D. Zone is the Skype number. All one word. Call in, ask a question. Maybe we'll get to know each other. Wine, dinner, McDonald's. Because they all go together. So 1941. This was Spencer Tracy. Also very much the Marquis de Sade. It was a very close remake to the 1931 version. I'm not entirely sure why they updated it so quickly, because I mean it was slightly different. Like there was a bigger budget to it, but it was basically the same story. I'm not entirely sure because it was done by the same company. It was Paramount both times. This was one of the monsters that was not done by the Universal, surprisingly, because they did pretty much everybody else. But yeah, the 1941, it was a better performance. I'd say I like Spencer Tracy better than Percy, but the Percy just had that nostalgic feel, and there was some great shots that were in the 31 version that was not in the 41. That like the shadows running towards the light and the shadows getting bigger as he did was fantastic, and so that was all good in the neighborhood. Yep. Next question.
Here's Jonathan Hyde.
Oh, Jonathan.
He was in the Titanic. You know him now. He's an Australian actor.
Oh, okay. No, Jonathan Hyde will not be playing Hyde. Probably because I can't afford it.
I was going to say, probably wants some money.
He'll want a couple dollars, and I've only got half one.
just a few.
Just pretty.
All right. Stephen Har, do you think the Incredible Hulk ripped off Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the Incredible Hulk has multiple personalities eventually, where there's the Gray Hulk, which is very much Hyde. he's not as strong as the Green Hulk. He's not as the madder he gets, the stronger he gets. But he also like smokes a cigar, which is very much Hyde, and wants women and does it, gives into all these lust things versus just rage, which is what the Green Hulk was. And it's interesting because they I think the Gray Hulk was them just saying, yeah, we took Hyde. And then, in fact, when they did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, they made Hyde the Hulk, which was, I guess, a different take because he is Neanderthal-like, so I guess they made him more ape-like, but giant ape man. But yeah, no, absolutely.
Stephen Hart, do you think Mr. Hyde is just a drunk who can't handle his booze?
Well, I definitely would say that the story is dealing with alcoholism, because he does drink something that brings the worst out of him, and I'm guessing that does have some correlation with alcohol, because it kind of lets all your inhibitions go, and you kind of do and say what you're kind of thinking and feeling, and then sometimes you do things that you wish that your subconscious kind of does that you're not hoping to do. It gets a little complicated, but I definitely think it was an influence for what was going on. All right, next movie. Next. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1968. This was Jack Palance, and also done by Brain Fart. He did Dark Shadows, and he did Kolchak. Oh, man. It even says, like, this was a blank production. Dan Curtis. This was a Dan Curtis TV movie, which was awesome. I actually owned it for a long time, and I hadn't watched it since I bought it in like the 90s. And it was hosted by Elvira from her, I can't remember which show it was at that point. It was like TV Chiller or something to that effect. And so it was cool. It was cool seeing Elvira, and then I watching the movie as well. Which she just bookended, I think. She might have did something in the middle, but I think it was just the beginning and end. Maybe one thing in the middle. I think what we can all agree with horror hosts, when you're watching one of those movies, you just want more of them. Like, you just want to see the horror host a lot more than sometimes even the movie. But this was back when, like, it was just kind of getting started with her, I think. I want to say this tape was definitely 80s. So they hadn't really gotten into that yet, but like the stuff she hosts now, you do see more of her. They have more cutaways into her. But no, Jack Palance, it was awesome seeing him do it. I also found out that he did a Dracula that also Dan Curtis produced. Didn't know that until one of you guys told me, and that will be on my Dracula list faux show. Next question.
We have a comment from Brittany Drew.
A comment was about Royce.
It is about Royce. The last show, Royce got me heart fluttering.
Oh.
Show us his fluffy chest. I would like to see him drop his pants so I can see his hide. Wink.
Oh, Brittany.
Well.
Hello. He will be on the show again. He usually does the big sum up ending, the final one that we end up doing after I get through the 101, 102, 103. And then I think our fourth and final episode is after I go through a lot of studies, 10 movies, and then 20 items, 16 or 15 to 20 items of additional stuff. So that's when I really dive in and just can talk a lot about Hyde. We have songs and we do things. It's our big finale show of each monster. And I'm going to try to make it. Actually, what you guys could do is in the comments of this one, let me know kind of what you would be cool in the big finale show. What should we do to make the show better other than just me yapping and
Royce with no pants.
And Royce with no pants, which is always a party. Just one of those things. Yeah, next move or question.
Stephen Har, on a side note, I hope you didn't mind the little publicity I was able to get for Plan 9 in the local paper where I live in Oz.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for the publicity. That was awesome. And I'm glad it's working for you as well, and getting your voice out there as well as Plan 9, which I think it's in 9 days. Plan 9 releases in Australia. First country to release the film.
Yay.
Yes, it's going to be, that's an interesting day. I don't even know where I'll be. Be doing something, probably editing. I'm doing a lot of that this month.
Stephen Har, are there any actresses you are eyeing for the parts in House of Horrors?
No, I'm trying to, like, I've got some Darkstonians that have worked with me on multiple things that I have as runner-ups, but no one is locked into a role of any kind yet, just because I don't know what our budget will be. I don't know if there will be influences to cast other people, like name actors, and because they might give me like a short list of name actors to work with, and I have to see what role they fit for. So if I cast a bunch of roles before them, it makes it more difficult because they might fit for something I've already cast, because you don't know who those people are based on availability and things like that. So I'm trying not to. I've got people in mind, of course, every time I go through this, but I'm trying not to cast anything yet.
Hey, Stephen Har, will you consider having a character or two being serial killers or people that are possessed by the soul of a serial killer, reincarnation, kids descendants of serial killers living up to their family history, i.e. Ed Gein, Ted Bundy, son of Sam, or grandson of Sam, in this case, Zodiac Killer?
Not of course in House of Horrors, because we're dealing with more of the famous monsters. But no, I'm open to that idea. I've definitely dealt with possession in movies before, of mostly demons. But it would be interesting to have a copycat serial killer who just so happens to be the original one in a new body. That definitely has crossed my mind before. All right, so I'm going to look at the next movie, Mary Riley. This was a weird one. They changed a lot of stuff. It was cool because this was obviously that really weird resurgence of the classics in the 90s, where they did Mary Shelley's Frankenstein by Keith Branagh, and then Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I hate that it's called that, but it was kind of a resurgence by Francis Ford Coppola. Then they even did The Mummy with like Brendan Fraser. It was kind of like this resurgence of all these movies, and Mary Riley was the Jekyll and Hyde take. It had a lot of cool stuff to it, but they well, to be honest, it wasn't just a straight retelling, which was cool. But they made Hyde. They made the Hyde that I was used to knowing, the one that only really did stuff because of reaction. He does like stomp a kid, I think, at some point during the movie. I'm not entirely sure why he does that, but most of the stuff. But then they had this, like, they got into the idea that there's the maid was kind of falling in love with the dark, sinister Hyde, and liking that. So it's really it gets into that Marquis de Sade, pleasure is pain stuff, which is that's a big door that leads to that basement where terrible things happen that I'm sure I'm going to probably by the end of my study be looking at and dealing with and studying, because it just seems to be going in that direction. But no, Mary Riley was a good movie. It's very well produced. It's definitely the biggest budget Jekyll and Hyde I've seen to date. Just from all the sets and the costumes and the actors, and Malkovich played Jekyll and Hyde. It was great. It just really adapted the story a little bit, which is cool because there really has been, I haven't seen a whole lot of adaptation. It's been a lot of the same story over and over again. So that was kind of cool. Next question.
Stephen Hart.
Stephen.
Woohoo! Other than Quasimodo, the Phantom of the Opera, and the Headless Horseman, is there any other monsters you won't have in House of Horrors?
We'd have to ask.
The Blob.
We would not the Blob. We're not doing the Blob. We're doing more older, I guess, than the Blob. With the exception, we're not really doing the creature. We're doing I'm saying too much. But yes. So yeah, that slipped. But yeah, so yeah, we're not doing Quasimodo, Phantom of the Opera, or what was
Headless Horseman.
Headless Horseman would make sense, but he's not in the mix just because he isn't quite the famous monsters. Like when you look up famous monsters, black and white, he doesn't come up. But Quasimodo and Phantom of the Opera and will not be making the cut just because, one, there might be too many monsters. We're trying to keep the number filling that it's more than you've ever seen, but also not too many where I can't make sense of the movie anymore. Because the one guarantee I will make is that a monster will fight another monster every 10 minutes of the movie. Now, that might not be to the death, but there will be some... They're always going to be testing each other. And then probably the last 10 minutes, there'll be a lot of fighting and a lot of terribleness. But I'm not going to wait till the end of the movie for the fight. I remember the Wolfman meets Frankenstein. You're just waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. And then eventually it all happens, where this will not be that. Shit will get real quick. But yeah, all right. So let's look at another movie. I'm getting close to being caught up with that. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1920, the silent film. Ooh, and I can't remember who played Hyde. Crap. I can't remember the actor's name. I think she's looking it up for me. No, it was great. That one definitely was an adaptation as well. They did kind of veer from the book a little bit, which is fine. When you have a story that's done that many times, you do want to adapt it so you're not telling the same story over and over again. Yeah, it was interesting. Like, I think at that point, Hyde sacrifices himself and Jekyll. Like, he kills both of them with some poison off a ring. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting take. John Barrymore, that's it. And the makeup was really, really cool. Like, it might be my favorite makeup design thus far. Really, just how the actor played it with the, like, that kind of thing. And it had a lot of influence from Nosferatu. You could just kind of see it. Or was Nosferatu after? I think Nosferatu was after 1920. Yeah, Nosferatu was like 27 or something like that. So Nosferatu took from this then, I guess, with a lot of the shadow play. So that was interesting. It's cool to see how, like, all this kind of came together. And it also kind of brings to mind that, that hasn't even been, well, that's not even 100 years yet. Yeah, that was like 1920. So we still got another 5 years before that was 100 years ago. Like, and how much of the art that I do is so new. Like, you have people who like dance and theater, and these are talents and art that has been around for centuries, where what I do is so new to society, where, like, the 1920 silent film wasn't even 100 years ago. It's kind of crazy when you think about it that way. All right, next question.
We have a question from YouTube. Someone named Bioduck says, "You're cute." I think she means me.
She's talking about Alyssa
and Nigel.
And that is not my wife, who may or may not be drinking at this moment in time.
Oh.
If she's still watching, she might not be watching. She might have just, like, logged on and said I was cute and then logged back off because she loves the Facebook, and to get her taken away from Facebook for that long would be amazing, because that is a feat that can't really be done. Can't be done.
Okay. Stephen Hart.
Stephen!
Woohoo!
Is this a new one? Or is this from the old log?
This is maintenance.
Oh, we're still on the old. Okay.
We're almost to the end of the maintenance.
Okay.
I just thought I'd put in the Bioduck one.
Oh, okay.
Stephen Hart, will Igor or any other monster sidekicks appear?
No. Well, yes and no. Igor, no. No Hunchback is going to be in this one. But there is two characters from other films that aren't exactly the main characters, but they will be adapting and hybriding, if that's a word. It's like a pudding. Hybriding. Yes and no. It's the best I can do with that one. Oh, wait, I got one more movie, which is my last movie. I was supposed to watch the one tonight, which I will be watching tonight, but I won't be going over it. This is The Strange Case of Jekyll and Hyde, 2006, which was Tony Todd playing Hyde. This was a weird one. It was weird because, for one, I didn't know everybody who was in it. I'm a big fan of Tracy Scoggins and Tim Thomerson. Obviously, I made transfers. To see them in the movie just shocked me because I didn't know that they were in the movie until I started watching it. And Tony Todd did a great performance. In fact, I'm glad to see he got to do more, because I think in a lot of films he gets typecasted to an extent, but he doesn't get to show a lot of he's never a regular guy, like normally in the films that I've seen anyway. So it was kind of cool to see him interacting with people in a non-murderous way, where he normally gets, you want to know how this shit works. Like, he's usually that kind of character, or Candyman with some bees all over his that whole thing. So no, it was cool. He's actually a very, very talented guy. And I hope that one day I get to work with him, Tracy, and Tim Thomerson. If that the stars align, I want this to happen. No, it was a fun version. They definitely updated it. They changed the story a lot. There were 3 personalities. There was Jekyll, Hyde, and an ape, which was kind of like a werewolf, but like an ape, but like a straight up ape monkey thing. And they say they kind of changed why the experiment was happening. It wasn't trying to separate the good from man. It was it was like a healing thing that kind of went wrong with nanobots. So it was kind of cool to see that kind of adaptation. I enjoyed the film, and I was very impressed. It was a surprising one. Out of all the films I've watched, I think I was the most surprised by that one, which was cool. That's one of the major reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's just to dig into stuff that I normally wouldn't.
Hey, Stephen Harr has a comment about our Skype call. Just how awesome with John Birmingham's song. He should write a song for the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get him to write a HYDE song if I can get him to. I think the Creature song he said he wrote a long time ago. He just kind of brought back. But I'm gonna see if I can get him to write a HYDE song and do a Skype call for the final show. That'd be awesome.
Okay, and then he also Stephen sent in the Jonathan Hyde thing as well.
Okay. Okay.
IMDb.
Who that man is.
Yeah. And now I just need a second to find, because that's
all right. Well,
the old ones.
I think I'm caught up on movies. I'm very excited about watching the one tonight because it's Michael Caine playing Jekyll and Hyde, which is, I love me some Michael Caine. Man, fought a shark, which is, don't be upset with me. Don't be upset. Jaws Revenge is my favorite Jaws. I know. I love the other Jaws films. I love the first Jaws film, but Jaws, it's the ghost of a shark fighting the last starfighter. You can't beat that. And Michael Caine, it's the ghost of a shark that sounds like a dinosaur when you shock it. It's so ridiculous. I adore it. And I love how they adapted the theme and the video game. And I lost a viewer. I lost a viewer because I fucking said, I love Jaws. Don't get me wrong. Jaws is an amazing film. It's definitely at the top 100 films that I love. But Jaws 4 is just like just a couple steps up above it. I'm sorry. Next.
Milos Bukaraka.
Aha. Shibashi.
Can you name a few monsters that you wish you could have added to the movie but couldn't for some reason or another?
Sure. Because of copyright and budget, it would be really interesting to have a big monster mashup where you take all of the classic monsters and their 1970s, 80s counterparts. As in, take Hyde versus Freddy Krueger. And Freddy Krueger obviously was Hyde. He was giving in to children. He had the hat. He was very much the dark side of man, which is the Hyde version. Frankenstein versus Jason Voorhees, both resurrected by electricity so far as the classic movies are concerned. And kind of unstoppable, undead. That mashup would be amazing. Michael Myers versus the Mummy, because the Mummy was an unstoppable creature, but it was actually after only specific people. Where Jason, you just stepped in his way, you're dead. But Michael Myers was really after a specific group of people, and the Mummy usually is after a certain set of people. So those kind of their new versions in the slasher genre would be fun to see all of those. But I'll never be able to do that because there's a lot of money, and they would not give me the rights because I would make a funny joke.
Stephen Carr, Horror wants to know, will you have a cameo?
There's a strong possibility I'll be in this film as somebody. Like, that just kind of goes without saying because I don't have to pay myself and I know I show up.
True that. Kenneth Tabor, these came in after the show.
Oh, these are all new.
So, well, they came in February 1st, so they're new but old.
Oh, okay.
Kenneth Tabor, Spencer Tracy played it kind of straight in a way.
Yeah.
Do you think his take was more sadistic?
It was darker. The biggest thing was the imagery when he first became Hyde, where he was whipping these horses, and the horses turned into the two women, which that he was attracted to, which was, it was so dark and it was so kind of sexy because of the way the women were acting as they were being whipped, which is not how a person would act. They'd be like, oh yeah, like they were. You get hit with a fucking whip. I have been hit with a whip in a movie by accident. You don't do the yes, oh no, you fucking scream because you got the sound barrier broke on your face, and that is not a good thing. So yeah, I would definitely say like they were definitely taking, because the 1931 was the ape version, where the 41 was very much the Marquis de Sade. They really got into that, and so he kind of downplayed his character a little bit as more inner thought versus outer, which was the 1931 version. But it was very good. It was very cool.
Okay, Kenneth Tabor again. Because the good man denies the animalistic nature, the animal has no qualms with it all.
It's tough with Hyde because it's almost like at first you think animalistic, like the Wolfman, but Hyde is like so much into torture and inflicting pain mentally and physically on other people. It's beyond animal. It's really evil. Like, he might be the darkest of all the classic monsters, because most of the monsters, with the exception of Dracula, are kind of sympathetic. They all have a sympathetic take on them, but Hyde doesn't. They try to get into it a little bit, but what he does is so bad that you really can't justify Jekyll or Hyde's darkness, which is interesting because he is definitely the evilest of the group. I mean, Dracula, there's a little bit of survival to him, but he is kind of just doing what he pleases, so there is a darkness to him, but he's not torturing people the way Hyde does. He just takes what he wants and then moves on, very Viking-esque. It's Viking. He's a Viking with like vampirism, where Hyde is just a really nasty guy. I would rather be killed or locked in a room with Dracula than Hyde any day.
Okay, I'm going to read Kenneth's question, and then somebody asks a question about that, and then he says it. So then you can.
Okay, I'll hear the conversation.
So, yes, so then you jump in. Okay, Kenneth Tabor, I have noticed that Mr. Hyde is an opposing personality of the righteous Jekyll. Do you think you have to have the righteous man to have the degenerate Hyde, or is it the primal side of us all? Then Rhonda Hickens says, how can you have Hyde without Jekyll? Then Kenneth says, Dr. Jekyll always loses in the end. Inevitably, Mr. Hyde becomes dominant.
Well, I mean, there's two sides to it. One, I think that if you give in to your lusts and you feed the beast, essentially, that if you did turn into Hyde, it might not be quite as bad as if you neglected that. I mean, just kind of look at like the priests that don't take a wife. It's very noble. It's a great idea. However, they don't feed their human nature. So sometimes bad things happen. Like they turn on children and people just because they're not feeding that human nature, and it just kind of takes over. Probably got myself in a lot of trouble for talking about that.
Yeah.
But it's that it's kind of that idea. So I think that that it depends on the person. I think Jekyll was so focused on good and not doing anything bad. And actually, most of the people of that time period were so on heirs because that's all they really had. Because even if you had tons and tons of money, you might not be like, I mean, it was really bad to be poor, but it wasn't that great to be rich either. You didn't have, everything was show. Like, you know, you still walked outside and there was mud, and you still like had to like build stuff, and you still had to do things for yourself. But you would put on these airs where you pretend that you don't have to. And I think that is what the book attacks the most, is the pretentiousness of being rich and being privileged. And I mean, I think even in the novel, I haven't seen it in any of the movies yet, but Hyde stomps a guy just for the airs that he put on. That's the only reason why, which is there's still a reaction to it. But even though Jekyll and Hyde are kind of in the same boat, but they're doing something about it. Like they're trying to give back. Well, not Hyde. He's trying to give, but in a bad way. But Jekyll's trying to give. So yeah, I would definitely say that, I mean, a theory that if you give into your dark side on occasion, if it ever took control, it might not be as bad as if you didn't do that. Next question.
Bioduck.
Bioduck.
I'm still watching.
Oh, she's...
Yay!
Well, that's surprising. Thank you. I think she feels really guilty right now, and that's why she's watching. This is probably the first live show that she's watched in a long time. So now I don't know. Oh, that's why we have 4 viewers instead of 3 viewers.
You, me, Brian.
that's what it is. And Kenneth and Steven.
They're together.
They're together. They're at Australia on a boat.
Okay, that one Taco Bell guy.
Not that other Taco Bell guy,
Yes.
but that one Taco Bell.
Don't know if you're allowed to talk about this or not. Are you crowdfunding this movie using your own money or getting funding from other sources?
I don't believe House of Horrors will be crowdfunded. I think it's going to be investor funded, and not studio funded, but company funded. Kind of the way Plan 9 was. We might be reaching out to some investors, so we might like do a posting if anybody's interested in investing, come this way. But I don't think we're going to be doing a crowdfund for House of Horrors at this time. My answer is I don't think so.
Okay, Stephen Har. I would have preferred the National Lampoon style Jaws 3 Humans 0 if they were allowed to do that. But I guess the version with brother of Randy Quaid, Marty McFly's mother, and Iron Eagle is Goonies are good enough.
Yeah, Jaws 3 was fun. It was a bit ridiculous, that movie, but fun for what it was. Not as much fun for me as 4, but because 3 was cool just because everybody was somebody in that thing. Like it was kind of ridiculous. Like even the extras, so for some reason, all had an Oscar. That's overstating, but you know what I mean. Are we caught up?
I believe so. I'm going to give one more run through.
We're looking at questions, but I think we might be done.
I think so.
Nobody called. Nobody Skyped.
Oh.
I got a friend request right before, but no actual call. One day we'll get a Skype call in other than a musician. But all right, guys. Well, that's our show. The next one, I believe, is on Monday of next week.
Oh, Stephen Hart.
Steven, get it in real quick. What do you got?
Crap, where'd it go? Wait.
Steven.
Oh, no, it's here.
Steven.
Let's find where it went.
Oh.
Okay.
You got it?
No.
Okay. So there is a crowdfunding thing going on right now, which is for a vampire web series, which I'm doing, which is called Gravebit, which is very much in the vein of like the Hammer films, kind of more old school vampire versus the modern sparkly ones. And then we're doing a short film to premiere in Mysticon in like 3 weeks. We're going to do kind of like a franchise killer kind of a thing. So if you can, just check the Darkstone Facebook group. We've got a store available. You can buy stuff from the movies. Trying to give back. We don't want to just take your money. We want to like you actually purchase something. But I think we're getting closer to being to our goal. But we still have a little ways to go. Not terribly. I think we only got like 500. Because there's some under the table stuff too. So I think we got some maybe 500 more would be amazing. So if you got like $10 and you want to come help us out, that would be awesome because we definitely will need it because we got a lot going on. And it'll kind of show me how much you guys like the crowdfunding thing because I might do that more often if it works versus not working. And then I won't. Do you have that question?
Yep.
All right.
Stephen Hart, will the web series be tied into the movie?
Not the vampire series, but there will be a web series that will be tied into House of Horrors. I want all kind of how we did Criswell Predicts for Plan 9. I want each one of my bigger films to have a sister short as well as a web series. But I can't give any information about that except that there will be one. And there is the cat. Who's coming?
I'm going to get him a little hat and he could sit next to me.
He's coming to say hi.
Little fedora.
All right, so I guess we're done. The next show next week where we'll have a guest on talking about his days in HYDE. You can go look at the House of Horrors research and see the other movies that I'll be watching. Hopefully tonight I'll be watching the Michael Caine version, which I believe is available for free on the Fright Picks app on Xbox, surprisingly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Will the vampire web series be tied into the movies? Not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that, yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We will see you on the next one. And I'll figure out how to put a title up.